We are looking at figure 18.1 on page 377 of your textbook. This graph tries to show that it's difficult to compare different countries with each other. We might feel that there's two countries, the one has a very low emission or has low emissions, the other has higher emissions. Therefore, the one with lower emissions is better off or is doing a better job in terms of environmental policies. But there's much more at play. There's much more to look at because countries differ, and so does the marginal abatement cost, so does the marginal damages, and therefore the efficient level of emissions. So, for example, if we have two countries with different marginal abatement costs, it's called a zero, and instead of emissions here, I'm going to call it ambient pollution level. Why? Because emission is the amount we put into the air that goes through the smokestacks and sewage pipes that we emit into the environment, while the ambient pollution level is the amount that's currently in the environment. So we're not looking at how much we emit, but how much is currently in the environment. But the marginal abatement cost is still the same. So let's say for country A, this is their marginal abatement cost. And for country B, or 2 rather, this is their marginal abatement cost. Now let's say the damages are the same in both countries. This means that for country 1, they would have an efficient level of emissions or of ambient quality of E1, and for country 2 it would be at E2. So can you see both these countries are efficient if they are at E1 and E2 respectively. But it might not look like this because E2 is a lower ambient pollution level than E1. So you might feel E2 is better because there's less pollution in the environment. Now this could be because of technology. We can say country 2 has a better state in technologies than country 1. In the long term, this would be fine because all the technology available to country 2 would be shared with country 1 in the long term by trade and technological transfers, and therefore MAC1 would also shift down until it is also where MAC2 is currently. So we have two curves there on the same line, and therefore only one efficient level. So it's difficult to compare countries' efficient level of emissions or efficient ambient pollution level because there's differences in the marginal abatement cost curves. But this is only one example. We can also have an example where the damage is different. I'm just going to write ambient pollution for short. So here we only have one marginal abatement cost curve, like this, but we have two different marginal damages curves, one for country 1 and one for country 2. This might be because of different reasons. Maybe there are more people in country 1 than in country 2, or maybe country 2 has certain physical characteristics that means that the environment takes more harm to pollution. For instance, more sensitive ecosystems, or it's very low lying, so the pollution kind of settles in a valley where it's constantly exposed to the people. Where the other one, there's a lot of wind taking the pollution away. So there's a lot of differences between the countries. But important, we have two different efficiency levels, one for country 2 and one for country A. Now it might look like country A is doing better, country 1 is doing better, but in reality they're both at efficient levels because they have different marginal damages curves. And then lastly, there can also be a situation where we have exactly the same situation in both countries, meaning we have the same marginal abatement cost and the same marginal damages. And let's say this one country is currently over here, and the other country is over here. Now both should be at the efficient level where the two intersect over here, but country 2 has a, you know, um, is at a different place than country 1, and the reason for this could be just enforcement. So country 2 may not have the needed enforcement to get to that efficient level, and they're struggling with getting there. But they both have the same goals. They both have the same efficiency level. So you probably wouldn't have to draw this. You could draw one of these curves individually, but the most important thing is you should explain why it's difficult to compare different countries' environmental policies with each other.